The movie begins in 2006. David is running for the U.S. Senate in New York. His campaign is going very well because he truly cares about people, and everyone thinks he's going to win. He's on magazine covers and popular talk shows. But things go wrong when a newspaper publishes a photo of David's bear but from a prank at a college reunion. This hurts his image badly. David gets very upset, and a man named Harry is watching him. Harry gets a strange phone call and says he's working on new ideas. On election day, experts say David will lose, and he does. Harry and his boss, Richardson, are watching again. Richardson says they need to help David get back on track. David, feeling stressed, hides in a bathroom to calm down. While practicing his speech, he hears someone in one of the stalls. Elise comes out, holding her shoes and a bottle of alcohol. She says she's hiding from security after sneaking into a wedding on a dare. They talk and immediately get along. Elise says she liked the prank photo, and David says losing the election might be good so he has more time for himself, but Elise doesn't buy it. She thinks he loves attention. Then, suddenly, they kiss passionately, like there's a strong connection between them. But before they can continue, David's campaign manager, Charlie, comes in. Elise runs off without giving David her number so she doesn't get caught. Later, David gives his speech. He starts reading from a script, but then decides to speak honestly from the heart. People love his new, real attitude. A month later, Harry meets with Richardson, who tells him to spill David's coffee so he misses the bus. David now works at a company with Charlie and isn't thinking about politics. Harry waits in a park to stop him but falls asleep. When he wakes up, David is already on the bus, and there he sees Elise again. They're both surprised and happy to meet again. Elise encourages David to run for Senate. Harry, seeing that the plan is off track, makes a small gesture from afar. Suddenly, David spills coffee on Elise's lap. Right after that, Harry is hit by a taxi, but he gets up like it's nothing. When he checks his special notebook, he's shocked to see David is not following the plan anymore. On the bus, David asks Elise for her number, but his phone keeps ringing, so Elise throws it into his coffee. Then she has to get off the bus. David promises to call her. At the office, David rushes through the corridors, greeting employees who are oddly frozen in place. In the conference room, he finds Charlie and a group of strange masked men scanning him with a mysterious rod. The men are led by Richardson, who orders them to capture David. A chase ensues through the office, but no matter which corridor or stairwell David chooses, more men and even Richardson appear to block his way. He locks himself in his office and calls 911, but there's no response. The strange men break through the locked door and tackle David, holding him down as Harry puts him to sleep with chloroform. David wakes up in an empty warehouse and overhears Richardson being scolded by his superior on the phone. When the call ends, Richardson announces that David must be reset, but one of the agents objects, saying the chairman wouldn't authorize it. David demands an explanation. Richardson explains that he's part of a group ensuring everything goes according to plan. When David tries to run, Richardson simply flicks his hand, bending the floor to trip him. They put David back in the chair, and Richardson proves he can read David's mind by correctly guessing the color and number he's thinking of. This group is the Adjustment Bureau, or TAB. David wasn't supposed to see them while they were adjusting Charlie. He was meant to spill coffee in the park, return home to change clothes, and arrive late after they had left. Each person has a mapped-out path, and TAB ensures those paths are followed using subtle interventions like coffee spills and internet outages. Humans aren't supposed to know about TAB, so Richardson forces David to promise he'll stay silent. If he breaks that rule, they'll reset his brain and personality. He's also forbidden from seeing Elise again. She's not in his path. They take her phone number from David's pocket and burn it. David is then thrown into Charlie's office. Everything appears normal again, and TAB is gone. But David can't stop thinking about what happened, and even Charlie notices his distraction. That evening at a bar, David tries to recall Elise's number. Harry sits next to him and warns him about his fixation on someone he's not meant to be with. Since it's dangerous to discuss TAB in public, they agree to meet later on a boat for privacy. On the boat, Harry reveals that water blocks their ability to track David's actions. He also admits agents can't actually read minds, they just study people's histories and patterns to predict behavior. Harry warns David not to pursue Elise if he wants to avoid TAB's interference. 3 years later, David is on a bus when he sees Elise walking down the street. He jumps off and runs to catch up, confessing that he's ridden the same bus every day hoping to find her. They go for a walk while he explains he lost her number and couldn't find her online since he didn't know her last name. A TAB agent notices the change in David's routine and alerts Richardson, who sends agents after them. Elise shares that she's a dancer in a contemporary ballet company and mentions a show happening the next night. They stop at a cafe, unaware that Richardson is watching from afar. He notes several inflection points in Elise's path as well. If they kiss, it will irreversibly derail the plan. TAB sends Charlie to interrupt their date by reminding David about a speech he can't miss. When they're about to kiss goodbye, Richardson impersonates the TV crew via Charlie's phone to ruin the moment. David kisses Elise's cheek and promises to see her again. That afternoon, David announces he'll run for Senate again, while Elise receives a trick text from TAB redirecting her rehearsal. Sensing something's off, David cancels his interviews and rushes to the ballet studio only to find it closed. He borrows a stranger's phone to call the company, but the line disconnects. Meanwhile, Richardson and his assistant appear, urging David to give up on Elise. David asks why he feels so strongly if she isn't in his plan. Richardson doesn't know either. Desperate, David enters a cafe and asks for directions to the ballet company. Luckily, a patron gives him an address. He tries to hail a taxi, but Richardson prevents any from stopping. David chases down a cab, but it gets hit by another car. Inside the crashed vehicle, he finds no one. He calls 911, but when the police arrive, one officer tries to detain him as the only witness. David asks the sergeant if that's necessary, and when she says they'll call in later, he realizes the officer has vanished. Another TAB agent. Now free to move again, David bribes a cab driver with $100 to ignore traffic laws and anything unusual. Meanwhile, agents use their powers to chase him through locked doors and buildings. However, when they make it to the studio, it's too late. David has already seen Elise. Richardson warns him that more powerful people will come after him, then goes to the office to meet with his superior. It turns out Elise and David were meant to be together a couple of times over the past few decades, but the plan changed in 2005. Now, the remnants of the old plans keep pushing Elise and David together. Richardson looks for Harry to inform him that it wasn't his fault after all. That night, Elise and David have a lot of fun together, racing on the streets, dancing at the club, and sharing stories from their childhoods. The couple then shares a kiss and goes home, where they sleep together. After they fall asleep, they're watched by Agent Thompson. The next morning, Elise receives several calls from her ex, who she hadn't talked to in a long time. She reveals she was engaged to him but broke it off because she kept thinking about David. In return, David confesses that being with her is the first time he's felt like himself. Worried that the agents may take her away, he invites Elise to the TV station so she can watch him do his interview. After the show, an agent pretending to be part of the crew tells Elise that David will be there for hours and will call her when he's done. After she leaves, the agent pretends to guide David to his next show, only to push him into a warehouse and lock him up. Moments later, Thompson shows up, and David asks what happened to free will. Thompson explains that TAB took humanity from cavemen to the height of the Roman Empire, but then stepped back to see how humans would do on their own. This led to the Dark Ages for 5 centuries. TAB returned and brought the Renaissance, Enlightenment, and the Scientific Revolution. In 1910, they stepped back again, but in just 50 years, humanity brought 2 world wars, the Depression, fascism, the Holocaust, and the missile crisis. TAB decided to never give humanity free will again. Meeting Elise years ago wasn't a coincidence. She was meant to inspire David not to give up and to launch a political career that would take him far. Thompson says David won't become president if he stays with Elise, but David still believes in the fate created by his own choices and chooses her, so Thompson opens the gate and lets him go. David rushes to the theater to watch Elise's show, and Thompson appears next to him again to explain that Elise can become the most famous dancer in the world, but if she stays with him, she'll only teach kids. Thompson says the choice is David's, but on his way out, he nods, making Elise fall in the middle of her performance. Afterward, David takes a wounded Elise to the hospital. While the doctors run some tests, Thompson appears again and blames David for the accident, prompting David to punch him. Thompson points out that David always ruins his big opportunities with impulsiveness, like the prank that ruined his last election. It seems Elise brings out this reckless side of him. Tonight it's just a leg sprain, but next time, it may cost Elise the one thing she truly cares about. After Thompson leaves, David checks on Elise and confirms it's just a sprain. She should be better in about a month. David hugs her before saying he needs to make a few phone calls, but instead, he leaves the hospital and never contacts her again. 11 months later, David is leading in the popularity polls. One morning, Charlie brings him a newspaper with big news. Elise is back with her ex, and they're getting married in a week. David is upset and tries to ignore it, but a few days later, he's approached by Harry, who says Thompson lied. Elise doesn't bring out his recklessness. In fact, she helps him feel fulfilled so he doesn't have to fill his emotional void with crowds and dreams of the White House. David's father and brother died because TAB planned it that way to push David to become who he is now. David wants to be with Elise again, but her wedding is tomorrow. To stop it in time and avoid Thompson, he needs Harry to teach him how to teleport through doors like the agents. Harry tells him to always turn the doorknob clockwise, and that doors won't be locked if he wears a special hat. They try a random door and end up in a museum, then a water station. Harry asks David to wait while he meets with other agents. When they leave, Harry teaches David which doors to use and warns him to run from anyone wearing a hat. They might be agents in disguise. They practice all night. In the morning, Harry gives David his hat and wishes him luck. David starts running through doors in the rain. TAB can't track him and sends agents to find him. David runs as fast as he can, dodging traffic and people, and arrives at the courthouse. The groom is already there, nervous because Elise hasn't arrived yet. At the entrance, David leaves his jacket and phone at the metal detector but keeps his hat. After running through halls, he finds Elise in the bathroom. She's angry because he left her. Just then, an agent walks in. David punches him and grabs his notebook to show Elise the truth. He tells her he loves her and wants to be with her. Because David isn't wearing his hat, TAB finds him and sends more agents. David blocks the door, puts the hat back on, and teleports with Elise to a stadium. She now believes him. They run through many doors across the city. When Elise starts to panic, David calms her down and asks her to trust him. As agents chase them, they go through another door and appear near the Statue of Liberty. Elise freezes in shock. David explains more and lets her choose, stay with him or walk away forever. She chooses to stay. They turn the doorknob counterclockwise and appear at TAB headquarters. Some agents try to stop them, but David pushes past them. They keep running through doors and up staircases. They reach the rooftop, but the agents surround them. David and Elise say I love you and kiss. That makes all the agents vanish except Thompson. He says they can't make their own future. But then Harry arrives with a message. Thompson reads it and leaves. Harry explains it's from the chairman, the leader of TAB. He was inspired by David and Elise's love and changed the plan. Now they're free to be together. The rest of the notebook is blank so they can create their own future. They're finally free to start a new life. Harry wonders if free will is something the chairman gives only to those brave enough to fight for it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.